Hello, my name is Steve. You should know that by now. And we're here today to talk about the family history video of the McBride family. Oh, that sounds exciting. And first I'd like to introduce my friend here. This is Sid. Hi there. My name's Sid. Well, I told him that. Well, I guess you did. And Sid is a dummy. What? I say you're a dummy. Well, you're a dummy too. Well, no, I mean you're a ventriloquist dummy. Oh, I see. I didn't know that. I thought I was real. Sometimes you look real. I act kind of real too sometimes, yeah. Well, you really do. Any case, before we get started, I wanted to dedicate this video to God, who gave us a wonderful family, a family that's carried over the many, many years through our ancestry. And I just really appreciate all the things he's done for us. You know, in this time of trouble that's going on right now, we have to stay in our homes and things. It can get rather boring, and it's easy to get off the trail, but God takes care of us, and he's always there for us, so it's important. And I want to thank him for that, and I dedicate this video to him. Now let's talk about a little bit about the family. We're going to go down the scale of each people, of all the people that are involved, actually from the late 1880s. What's that on your head? What do you mean, what's on my head? What's on your head? A hat, of course. What do you got it on for? Why, this is to remember my grandfather. He wore a hat all the time. Where'd it go? What do you mean, where'd the hat go? No, where'd your hair go? My hair? Oh, well, that is kind of hereditary. Sounds like a disease to me. Well, hereditary means it goes through the family, and I lost my hair pretty early. Should have glued it back on. I probably should have. Anyway, let's put the hat back on. Oh, that's good. The reflection's really bad. Do your whole family have no hair? No, most of my family has hair. It's just some of us guys. Anyway, who are those people out there looking at us? Well, those people out there looking at us. I can't see who they are. Oh, I bet you can't. Can't see through the camera. Yeah. Well, those people out there are some of the finest people in our family. We have some very fine people. And are they dummies? No, I don't think they're going to consider them dummies. And they come from a long line of heritage. Well, what are you waiting for? A short line? No, it's a long line. I mean, they had many aunts and uncles and cousins and boys and girls. Oh, a lot of them. Really old people, huh? Well, some of them, like you. No, I'm not that old like them. Oh, okay. In any case, well, what are they going to do? Well, we're going to talk about our heritage. Okay, what's that? Well, that's our ancestry. Ancestry. I don't know who she is. It's not ancestry. Ancestry means our line of people that came from different places in the country and made children that are grown up and keep making more and more children. A lot of kids around, yeah, that's for sure. Let's talk about my grandfather that I remember when I was alive. Well, actually, when he was alive. You get mixed up, don't you? I do. Well, his name was Timothy McBride. Timothy McBride. McBride. I like that. Yeah, well, his name actually, he went by Tim. Tim. Like Tiny Tim? No, not Tiny Tim. That was a guy in the Christmas Carol movie. Oh, sounded familiar to me. Tim, and he was Grandpa Tim too. Well, Grandpa Tim came from Missouri. He was in Missouri? He came from Missouri? No, not Missouri, Missouri. Oh. Western Missouri. Missouri was a state he came from in the Midwest. Oh, how did he get here? Well, I don't know. What kind of car did he have? Well, he didn't. I don't think he had a car. They came over by horse and wagon, and horse and wagon. That's a tough thing. Yeah, I bet it was too. Well, anyway, he got here and he moved to Weston, Oregon. Weston, Oregon. Weston. I like Western. Yeah, it's sort of like Western. What did he do there? Well, he was a farmer, and as a farmer, he had about 1,000 acres of wheat. Wow, 1,000 acres? Oh, that's a lot of wheat. Yes. What did he make? Wheaties? No, this is well before Wheaties time. Well, how did he harvest them? Well, he had 12 horses that were hooked together. Oh, I bet they didn't like that. All the horses were used to that. And they had a combine. A combine what? Oh, a combine is a big thing that goes around and cuts the wheat and fixes it so it can go in the truck, and they can take it to the place where the wheat is ground and made into flour. Flours? No, into flour, like it goes into the bread. Oh, I see. And anyway, he had a whole bunch of people working for him because it took a lot of men to take care of that 12 horses and all the wheat and all the work they had to do. Lori, of course, had Brittany, July 30th, 66, and Brittany stayed with us a lot. We got to know Brittany very close, and we're still very close with Brittany, and she lives just up the hill from us, and she has a son called Cash, we've already talked about, and he's a kid that always says, just 2 minutes, 2 minutes, I said 2 minutes, yeah. And so I use that lots of times. Terry tells me that I need to do something, and I say, oh, just 2 minutes, 2 minutes. And Brianna, well, I don't know how to explain Brianna. Brianna is a card. She's lots of fun. This lights up our family when she comes over and we have a chance to talk with her. And she just, you know, you have some kids that have talents. We have some kids that have talent to do business, to do different things. And Brianna has a talent to brighten up everybody's day. She has her own, she's in business for doing hairdressing, and she works really hard. But she takes care of her kid, and she lives right up the hill, so we get to see her quite a bit. She comes down and serves me lunch quite a bit. Yeah, it's really good stuff, yeah. I don't get to eat, though. Why is that? Don't have any digestive tract. You don't have any digestive tract. Well, I guess that's something. Also, talking about Evan, we talk about Taylor, who is in there, and also Dylan, and I talked about them earlier. Mary Sue was my cousin, and is my cousin, Mary Sue. Mary Sue, and she kind of grew up with her also in Milton Freewater, and don't get to see Mary Sue much, but what a wonderful, lovely lady she became. And Jody, Jody's another one of those in the family that's always kidding around, and I don't get to see her because she's not close often either, but she's so much fun to be around. And Cindy, which is the other cousin, and Cindy was about a year older, I think a year older than me. That old, yeah, that old. And Cindy, again, all of us kids are really pretty close together because we live in the same area, and we got together and did a lot of things together. Anna Lane, which was Robert Moon, which I named him earlier. Robert is her son. Robert and I are very close together. And Tammy, which is the sister, and my cousin also. And Tammy is very talented. She's plays piano. She does a lot of things at church. Her husband Paul, great guy. always around. He's a real estate or an insurance guy, I guess is. I get those two mixed up. I'm not right, probably. And we get to hear from them quite a bit. And then Merlin, which is the oldest cousin, Merlin and I weren't really close because he was much older. He was closest to my brother because they were about the same age, my brother Dick. And there's so many people I wanted to mention to you, favorite people that everybody in their life has somebody that's their special friends. And I apologize for looking at these cards, looking down all the time, but I don't remember all the names. My mind has slowed down a bit. You think? Kind of did. You don't need any other than my name. Oh, I know your name, Paul. What? Oh, I'm just kidding, Sid. Oh, okay. Anyway, special friends. Joe Maggie, he's the one who lived down the Rock Road. And Joe and I shot rocks and rockets off and bombs and stuff, and I told her about that. Hilda Johnson was in school with me all the way through grade school and high school, and we had a lot in common and did a lot of things together, especially later on in high school. George Strilla, which, you have friends and then you have really, really, really special friends, and he's one of my special friends. He's obviously he's a good Christian man, and he calls me all the time, and it's wonderful to have a friend like him. I'm very lucky to be there. And then we have Kent Grote, which was the kid up the hill that I grew up with, but Kent moved away when he was very young after. I suppose 7 or 8 years old, so I haven't seen him since, and I'd love to know what happened to Kent. So that's kind of a list, and I'm sure I've left out lots of people that I appreciate. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone, all the friends, all the relatives, cousins, uncles, aunts. I think we have a very, very special family, and our family history is very important. At the end of this, I'm going to have a report that really takes us back to the early 1700s, I believe, where our heritage has come from, where the people before us, and that will be of interest to us. It may not be to you, but we've been able to trace it way, way back, which is very interesting, and we'll tell a few stories about that. So look at that at the end. Also, at the end of this, there's a special couple of video clips that I put in there that I think that you might find very interesting. So be on the look for those, and let me know if that's if you enjoyed those. So that's about all we have to say on this part of the video. Again, one more apology that if we misplaced somebody or told some wrong things or dates or something. I've tried very hard, but it's been a labor of love. It's been very fun because I remembered people that I hadn't remembered before, and I were able to think about how much, how important family is, and I spoke about that earlier. I wish you a Merry Christmas. Yes, sir, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And Sid does too, and somebody asked me, what do I think about being a ventriloquist? Well, it's funny because being a ventriloquist is interesting things. You say things that you don't realize you say. And I kind of gave up ventriloquism for a while because people couldn't decide which was a dummy. That's kind of insulting. But Sid and I get along pretty good. Yeah, just think about it. Who puts the words in my mouth? Oh, I guess you got a point there. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is part of the farm that we had was not just sugar beets, but we also grew other crops. Corn was one of them, okay? And there was asparagus. Well, we had to have people to come hoe the fields, hoe the weeds away. So every summer, a group of Mexican folk from Mexico would come up and hire out to do that hoeing of the sugar beets and the other crops we had. Well, they had to have a place to live, so my dad built kind of an encampment for them. There were little houses, if you would, with metal roofs on them, and they would live there during the summertime. And it was fun to watch them because they were such nice people. And they had, my dad had provided wood stoves, black top stoves, which were wood driven. You put wood in them to cook with, and they would take their tortilla blend and pour it out on that, and actually cook the tortillas right on top of that piece of metal. And I watched that all the time. You know, I never even tried Mexican food. You didn't? No, I didn't know how good it was. I wished I had at that time. Then he had a fellow that was he was the manager of the group, and he took care of all the Mexican people and assigned their jobs and their times and that sort of thing. And one of the fellow that was in charge of all that, his son was just about the same age as me, and he was really a neat kid. And I really got a kid out of playing with him and that sort of thing. We'd go out and go hunting and that sort of thing. Well, but the way he hunted was with a it's like in biblical times where you put a rock in a pad and you swing it around and throw it, like that, and a rock would come out. And that's predecessor to the slingshot, I guess. And you had to be really accurate to do things. And I saw him be able to hit and kill rabbits that way from some distance. Wow. I never heard of that. Yes. Well, it's like David and Goliath. You remember that story? Yeah, I do. Well, that was what David used on Goliath. It was one of those things with a sling, and that's how he hit Goliath in the head and knocked him down. Oh. Still around, huh? Well, I don't suppose anybody uses those anymore, but it was kind of fun to see somebody that... Well, Sid, here are some of the stories that my kids wanted you to... Okay, Sid, here are some of the stories that the kids wanted to hear about. So I'll go through these quickly. I hope you find some humor in them. I did have a really fun time as a kid. Did some things, some strange things also. My dad built me what I called a motor car at that time. It was a framed car with a small gasoline engine on the back of it. Was shaped like a Jeep, but we never got around to making the Jeep. So I drove around in this up and down the roads, realizing that the roads down at Fruitvale were paved and they were not much traffic on it. So one day we were going up and down the road, and a good friend of mine, Clifford Maines, he was riding it at times, and I was riding it. And I was riding it, and we're going down the road, and he's running alongside, and all of a sudden he tripped and fell in front of the car, and I ran right over him. Well, that was, what? Yeah, I ran over him. That must have hurt. Oh, I probably think it did. He got up and leaped off and limped off, I should say, and went home. Never said a word. Wow, he could have been arrested. Yeah, probably could have been. One of the things that was real interesting growing up is when I was young and just starting into high school, there was no TV. Now I know that's no TV? No TV. No TV sets? Nothing to see? No, we didn't have that. Wow, how boring life. I guess. But in any case, in order to get TV, you had to have an antenna. But the first stations were very, very far away. The first one that was closest to us was in Spokane, Washington. And Spokane was oh, I would guess 120 miles away, 140 miles away, something like that. And
okay,
so
let's
my
talk
dad
about
put
the
up
next generation
antenna,
from Grandpa Tim.
and he had to make an
of course,
antenna
that was my
that was,
dad.
I think, 75 feet high to get up to high enough to pick up the signal.
You probably heard me talk
we did
about
get
him.
picked up the
Yeah,
signal. We got the TV going. It was really interesting.
His name was
when
Lawrence
you see first see the TV,
Leo
they didn't have TV on
McBride.
all day. Usually it's on for 3 or 4 hours.
That's a mouthful.
Wow,
Yeah, that's not very long.
You know, that's not very long.
Tell me,
let me tell you something about him. He was born in 1911, and the first thing he would see is this, what they call the test pattern.
That's a long
and
time.
And the test pattern had an Indian in it. That always fascinated me. I'll show you the picture out there. And he was born in Western Oregon. That's the first thing he saw. Then it would come up with the TV program. Now the programming was pretty limited. There was a couple of mystery programs, and there was some news. It all took about maybe 4 hours, and then it was
Maxine
Levine. 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock in the evening.
Before that,
but everybody, you know,
premarital name
really was intrigued by it. Well, they lived in nobody else in the whhole area where we lived had a TV set.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, they were anyway. They married and they lived in Melton Freewater.
They were really hurting. There they go again. Melton Freewater. That must have been
happened is they'd come down to our house
and a very small place.
Come in and look and stare at that TV set.
My dad died
in before
1985.
So that was kind of fun.
Redding, California.
Later on,
Redding,
local stations in the Tri-Cities.
Redding, California
got better.
Quite a distance
the
from there,
TV tube itself,
they ended up.
I think was about 10 inches. His wife's name was Ketty. So you had to squint to see it.
An interesting name.
A small computer. Yeah, they're interesting that we have today. I had a dog named Mike, and he was really a great dog. He was a collie, and he was very, very protective of me. If my brother would come out and start wrestling with me, he'd start chewing his legs because he thought I was attacking him. In any case, Mike, one day, well, several days, he would go up the street with me as about 3/4 of a mile to the grade school where I went to school, called Fruitvale. Fruitvale? You have to be a fruit to be there? No, it's called Fruitvale because it was in the middle of the fruit farm area. And so I would many times ride my bike, sometimes walk to school 3/4 of a mile up, and Mike would follow me about 1/4 of a mile up the road till you get to what's the first house on the right-hand side. The name of the people are Blue Bros. That's a tough one. I won't even try it. Yeah. And those 2 dogs were really mean, and they'd come out there and they'd bark at him like going to chew him up, and he'd run the other way and go home. So he never got all the way past there. Well, I think after a while he got really sick of that. I mean, we're talking 6 months, 8 months, and I'm riding my bike and he's following me, and I figured he's going to take off the opposite way. Those dogs came out, and my Mike, he tore into those dogs, and those dogs went beat up away, and from then on he just pranced by their house with no problem, and he never came out and barked at him. So he got his due. Another thing he would do, Mike. Oh, Mike, yeah, I like the dogs like that, yeah. Well, old Mike was kind of interesting. He always seemed to know what we were going to do and where we were going to go. Oh, really? Did you tell him? No, we never told him. Well, we had a lot of places. We had a sugar beet ranch. Sugar beet ranch. That's what my sugar beet. What's a sugar beet? Well, sugar beet is a big beet. It's brown in color on the outside, and it's not one you eat. Oh. And it's one they take and pulverize it and process it and make sugar out of it. And that and cane was the 2 sources of sugar. Oh, so it's a big deal there. Oh, there's a lot of people that grew those sugar beets. My dad grew the biggest one. He had 400 acres of sugar beets. Wow. Did he use horses? No. By that time, they had no horses. They had tractors, and he had a sugar beet digger and things, and he had a couple hired men who were. Okay, Sid, here are some of the stories that the kids wanted to hear about. So I'll go through these quickly. Hope you find some humor in them. I did have a really fun time as a kid. Did some things, some strange things also. My dad built me what I called a motor car at that time. It was a framed car with a small gasoline engine on the back of it. It was shaped like a Jeep, but we never got around to making the Jeep. So I drove around in this up and down the roads, realizing that the roads down at Fruitvale were paved and they were not much traffic on it. So one day we were going up and down the road, and a good friend of mine, Clifford Maines, he was riding it at times, and I was riding it. And I was riding it, and we're going down the road, and he's running alongside, and all of a sudden he tripped and fell in front of the car, and I ran right over him. Well, that was, what? Yeah, I ran over him. That must have hurt. Well, I probably think it did. He got up and leaped off, and limped off, I should say, and went home, never said a word. Wow, you could have been arrested. Yeah, probably could have been. You know, one of the things that was real interesting growing up is when I was young and just starting into high school, there was no TV. Now I know that's no TV? No TV. No TV sets, nothing to see? No, we didn't have that. Wow, how boring life. I guess. But in any case, in order to get TV, you had to have an antenna. But the first stations were very, very far away. The first one that was close to us was in Spokane, Washington. And Spokane was, I would guess 120 miles away, 140 miles away, something like that. And so my dad put up an antenna, and he had to make an antenna that was, I think, 75 feet high to get up to high enough to pick up the signal. Well, we did picked up the signal. We got the TV going. It was really interesting. When you first see the TV, they didn't have TV on all day. Usually it's on for 3 or 4 hours. Wow, that's not very long. You know, that's not very long. In any case, we turned that TV on, and the first thing we would see is this, what they call the test pattern. And the test pattern had an Indian in it. Not always fascinating me. I'll show you the picture of it out there. And that's the first thing you saw. And then it would come up with the TV programs. Now the programming was pretty limited. There was a couple of mystery programs. There was some news. It all took about maybe 4 hours, and then it was off. I think from 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock in the evening. But everybody, you know, really was intrigued by it. Well, the thing was, nobody else in the whole area where we lived had a TV set. Oh, really? And now they were really hurting. Yeah, they were hurt. But what would happen is they'd come down to our house and come in and look and stare at that TV set because they'd never seen anything before. I like it. So that was kind of fun. Now later on, there's some more local stations in the Tri-Cities and stuff, and things got better. The TV tube itself, I think, was about 10 inches diameter. So you had to squint to see it. It was like a small computer monitor we have today. I had a dog named Mike, and he was really a great dog. He was a collie, and he was very, very protective of me. If my brother would come out and start wrestling with me, he'd start chewing his legs because he thought I was attacking him. In any case, Mike, one day, several days, he would go up the street with me as about 3/4 of a mile to the grade school where I went to school, called Fruitvale. Fruitvale? You have to be a fruit to be there? No, it's called Fruitvale because it was in the middle of a fruit farm area. And so I would many times ride my bike, sometimes walk to school 3/4 of a mile up, and Mike would follow me about 1/4 of a mile up the road till you get to what's the first house on the right-hand side. The name of the people are Blue Bros. That's a tough one. I wouldn't even try it. Yeah. And those two dogs were really mean, and they'd come out there and bark at him like going to chew him up, and he'd run the other way and go home. so he never got all the way past there. Well, I think after a while he got really sick of that. I mean, we're talking 6 months, 8 months, and I'm riding my bike and he's following me, and I figured he's going to take off the opposite way. Those dogs came out, and that my Mike, he tore into those dogs, and those dogs went beat up away, and from then on he just pranced by their house with no problem, and he never came out and barked at him. So he got his due. Another thing he would do, Mike.
Oh, Mike, yeah, I like the dogs like that, yeah.
Well, old Mike was kind of interesting. He always seemed to know what we were going to do and where we were going to go.
Oh, really? Did you tell him?
No, we never told him. Well, we had a lot of places. We had a sugar beet ranch.
Sugar beet ranch.
That's what my sugar beet. What's a sugar beet? Well, sugar beet is a big beet. The brown in color on the outside, and it's not one you eat.
Oh.
And it's one they take and pulverize it and process it and make sugar out of it. And that and cane was the two sources of sugar.
Oh, so it's a big deal there.
Oh, there's a lot of people that grew those sugar beets. My dad grew the biggest one. He had 400 acres of sugar beets.
Wow. Did he use horses?
No. By that time, they had no horses. They had tractors, and he had a sugar beet digger and things, and he had a couple hired men who worked with him, and they would take the sugar beets to the place where they would dump them into train cars to take them to the place where they process them into sugar.
Oh.
Well, one of the stories, this isn't a funny story, but it's one that's really unusual. We one day, I remember this so well, what they do, the train cars were on the tracks, and they were empty cars, and they'd fill them up. Then when they'd fill them up, a main tractor train would come pick them and take them to a place that was about 40 miles away for the processing. In any case, what happened when you get there, the truck we were in, they'd lift the bed and tip it up and it'd dump into a trough in there, and then that trough would grab those beets and put them up into the train car. So when the train car got completely full, they had to move the train car down and move the next one in place.
Oh, I see. Sounds simple.
No, not very simple. What they had to do, they had a big pry bar that they put underneath, and then they'd loosen the brake on that particular car they're working with.
Yeah.
And they would get that car moving a little bit, and then they'd let it roll down to where they needed it, and they'd stop it, and they'd bring another one in its place and lock it into place.
Well, still sounds pretty simple.
Well, the only problem was one day when we were there, what happened was they were doing the same process, and the fella was loosened the brake, and he started the train rolling, but he fell underneath the car.
Oh no, you're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. He fell under the car, and the train ran over both legs.
Oh, that's awful.
and it amputated his two legs. But the thing that was amazing was, because the train was so heavy, it just sealed up his legs so he didn't bleed to death. And when we got him to the hospital, and he lived.
Boy, that's a terrible thing. I guess you'll remember that for a long time.
I will. Another thing we did out on the ranch is go up to move the sprinkler pipe.
What's a sprinkler pipe? I can't even say that.
Yeah, well, a sprinkler pipe it was what watered the sugar beets.
Oh, so they grew.
Yeah. And I had a job of doing that, and these are real long pipes, about 40 feet long, and when they run for 12 hours at a time, we would do the changing, and we have to pick them up, and they were heavy and one end, and let the water drag out, and then move that pipe to the next section and hook it back up. So it was heavy work for sure. Well, old Mike, he'd always go with us. And he knew exactly where these places were. So one day we went and got in our Jeep. That's what we had, a Jeep with a carry-all thing on top of it.
and it allowed us to take the pipe out to the field. And we got in the Jeep, and he knew right away where we were going. So, but it was a long way around to get to the field where we were at, probably a good mile if you took the roads. But he took off across country, jumping the fences. In fact, we checked him with an odometer on our car, and he was traveling at 40 miles an hour, not all the time, but that was his top speed. That's Sir Doug. Was he a greyhound? No, he was a collie. Oh. And so we get over there to where we're going to work, and there he is, standing there so proud-like and going, like he really was a smart one. Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. I like that story. And other things that we did a lot, there was a friend of mine, Joe Maggie, and we used to make our own rockets and bombs. Well, you talk a lot about explosives, don't you? Well, not usually. But we had, what we did, we made rockets. And we'd roll the paper and make tubes out of them and fill them up with it was gunpowder at that time, and put a big long stick on them. And Joe's dad wouldn't let us fire them off unless he was at home. A good idea, I think. Yeah, it probably was a good idea. So what happened was, we were in the garage filling up these little tubes with the gunpowder to make the rockets. And we took the little box that we had all the gunpowder, and it was like little petals. And we put it over 6 or 8 feet away. Well, somehow, Joe's younger brother, which didn't know any better, he decided to light a match. And the match sprung a spark into that little cup, and it shoot up and went into the big can that was full of the things. Oh, no. Yeah, oh, yes. And what it did is shot up there. We ran out of the garage, and it burnt. We had to run out and get a hose and spray up there because it burnt the ceiling in the garage. Wow, bet you got in trouble. Oh, yeah, his dad came home, and he wasn't a real happy camper. Well, good afternoon. As we promised, we're going to give you a review of what the heredity and the family history looks like for the family. The McBride family, that is. And to help do this, because I couldn't possibly do it, my favorite daughter, my oldest daughter, my prettiest daughter, is going to tell you a lot about things you don't know about the family history. This is Lori.
We find out from Ancestry a lot of different things that is very interesting about where we came from, the McBride family, and our family history. We found out that we actually went all the way back to Scotland, where we originally started. We found out with the, I would say the name of it correctly, the Chaldean Jacobites, during their war that they were warring against England, I guess at the time. That was during the 1745 is actually when that ended. It looks like Andrew was born, which is when he was 20 years old. He took a ship, and the ship's name was the Panthea, across to come to America. And it looks like he was totally by himself and alone. There's no other family members that were on that ship with him. It looks like he was the only one. Originally, I had thought that he had a cousin or something that came across with him, but I don't see it in the ship's ledger at all. I only see him. And it shows him as a weaver. Whether we know that he's a weaver or not, I'm not quite sure. But it shows him as a weaver in the ship log. I'm with our computer said.
I didn't know they had such a thing. I thought they were around all the time.
I know. No computers, no way of making sure that they kept
smoke signals, maybe.
Those logs, so we don't know exactly who he married or who his wife was. But he had, let's see, can you believe this? You're never going to believe what their son's name was. Leo Thomas. So it's his name. And Leo Thomas was born in 1833 in Jamesville, Ohio. Now, Leo Thomas married Sarah Price. Now, Sarah, her nickname was Fanny, because they called her Fanny is actually what they called her, but her name was Sarah Price. And Sarah, she was born in 1840. And they showed them with all the ledgers in Knox, Missouri. Now, poor Fanny, man. I'm going to tell you how many boys she had. I think they're trying for a girl and they couldn't have him. So sad. So, The first son, William, 1862. Not even 2 years later, she has another one, poor lady. John, 1864. Not even a year later. He doesn't even give her time to have another child. Behrman was born in 1865.
She didn't know how to learn how to cook. She didn't have time.
Well, I guess she didn't have time. Always pregnant. But with this poor woman, what it must have been thinking, with no girls by this point even, right? Then she had Samuel in 1869. It looks like Samuel was a twin. And it looks like one of the twins died because it says no name and it has the same date down. So I think that he could have been a twin. Then they had Lafayette in 1873. So he gave her, 3 years between the next one, I guess. He gave her a little bit of time to grieve. Then they had Pearl, and that was 1874. So not even a year later again, poor woman. And then they had Harry, 1878. Oh, he gave her 4 years. 4 years between that one. What happened there? And then he had, then she had Timothy, well, can you believe it? 1882. Now, that is 9 boys in 20 years. Why did she die then? I can't imagine.
A lot of kids.
And all boys, no girls. She must have been trying for a girl. She had to have been trying for a girl. So
My uncle's name was Pearl, but he went by Uncle Purd. I think that was probably a good move. Yeah.
Purdy Bird. So out of 9 boys, it looks like they had all 9 boys before they left Missouri on the covered wagons, the Oregon Trail. Who knows why they left? I thought at first it was now the red's on. Okay.
Back over here. I'm gonna do
Try this again.
do something like this. This ain't sticking in my back. It's gonna kill me. I gotta take that out one of these days.
So I got it out.
Okay.
To there.
All right. That's
Okay, now where were we?
I don't know.
Oh, when they came over the covered wagons, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
mhm.
Your grandfather, Grandpa Tim. Let's see. There, that's what I was on right there. Okay, so it shows that. When they got over by the covered wagons, they were actually given a plot of land in 1890. The plot is called Pilot Rock. And you said you recognized that name. Pilot Rock, you were saying it's near Pendleton.
Pendleton, Oregon, yes.
Pendleton, Oregon. So, the youngest of the children, again, Grandpa Tim, married Ethel. So it's Grandma Ethel that he married. And he married her, and they lived in Weston. And that's where they were actually living. And they had one son. His name was, can't imagine it not being Thomas Leo. No, it's Lawrence Leo Truman. Well, Leo Truman or Thomas, one or the other. Lawrence Leo Truman, and he was born in 1911. And Lawrence Leo Truman was one of the only.
I wasn't there at the time.
He was the only son born of Grandpa Tim and Grandma Ethel. I don't know, probably because he grew up with so many brothers and sisters. Not brothers and sisters. Take that back. So many brothers. He said, "I'm going to have a son that doesn't have to share." I'm sure that's what it was because he's the youngest too. So I can imagine what he got all the hand-me-downs. You know that. So okay, so then he married Grandma Ethel. Now I called him Dadgy. His son Lawrence Leo Truman. That's who we called Dadgy. But Dadgy, he used to tell these great stories. And I'd sit there at his feet and I'd listen to his stories. I'm like, "Tell me the stories about the bear." So they would go on these big hunts and they'd hunt for bear and he'd hunt for elk. And I'd be all excited about hearing about this. But I guess back in the day, the Indians, they actually had farmers, when they used to have their crops, they would have all the people who were the help was the Indians in full Indian dress and everything. And they'd go out and they'd hunt for bear. He'd tell me all the stories about the bear. Not really sure how many were totally true. But I think he made up some things about the huckleberry eating along the way. But you tell me these stories about hunting bears.
They had about 15 guys with them hunting bears, so it's quite a thing. I have a picture. Hopefully I may add that into this later on so you can see it.
You know, I remember a story too, him telling about somebody having a heart attack while they're up in the mountains hunting for bear and elk. And the guy had a heart attack, so they had to cart him out. So I loved that story when I was young too.
I guess he didn't grin and bear it. I don't know what happened, but that's it.
Of course. I always wanted Daddy to bring me back a baby deer. I said, "You kill the mom, you kill the dad, you make sure you bring back the baby. I want a baby deer." I'd look for that baby deer every time he'd come back from elk hunting. Never got my baby deer. got some old head that was put in the garage.
Elk and a deer are two different things, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
all right. Okay.
Well, whatever. I just wanted a baby. That's all it was. So then, so let's go back to Lawrence Leo Truman. He marries Maxine Lavina, and her name was Geis at the time, and she was the second child of Geis's.
Albert.
Albert and Flossie Geis. And they married, and they lived in Milk Water. They had 2 sons. The first one was his brother Dick, his name is Richard. Not Thomas. They didn't name him Thomas. I wonder why.
I don't know.
They didn't name you Thomas either.
I think they ran out of names. I'm not sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
So brother Dick was born in 1939. I almost said 1839. That would have been good. He married Caroline Duff, and they had 1 child. I wonder how long these 1 children are going to last. 1 child, and that was Marcy. Marcy was born in 1962. She's older than me. She's my older cousin. And they lived in Reading. They stayed in Reading for a long time. And then they had Stephen. Actually, his name was Gerald Stephen McBride. And he was born in what? Do you remember the year he was born?
1946, or 1846, one of the two.
1946.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
And you lived all over the place.
I lived, well, Fruitvale, Oregon is the main place I lived.
Fruitville?
Fruitville.
Fruitville.
As Sid says, you lived with the fruits, huh? Yeah, I did, yes.
And where he had a sheep. I remember the story of the sheep.
Yeah. Bad, yeah.
The sheep that followed you
It's a
around.
bad story.
Yeah, I remember all the stories. It was great stories. But then you moved away to go to college to Oregon State?
University of Oregon.
University, U of O, I'm sorry.
Oregon State.
I
Yeah,
know,
man.
sorry, whatever. So anyway, so then he comes back and he marries Marianne Odoms. And the interesting part about the Odoms side is their side of the family comes the same side of Scotland as my father's side. You've been related. That explains my sister.
Could be. Could be.
Anyway, it's a little bit of inbreeding. No, anyway, so then Gerald Stephen has 4 kids. Lori, we won't say what year she was born because that'll tell you her age. And then Allison Marie, and then Evan Thomas. There we go, Thomas again. And then Matthew Scott. We've got somebody else in there. And they were born in 1970, 1972, and 1974.
We didn't have time to have 9, so we just want to
Stop at that. Well, because you had girls, you know.
Yeah.
If you had boys, you may have changed your mind.
Right.
And then, okay, and anything else you want to tell?
I think that's about it.
By the way, I have a grandson named Thomas too, so he's got a Thomas name also.
Well, I know that's a lot of people that we
Tommies.
want you to memorize this because there will be a test sent out to you. So
Just remember the name Tommy, Thomas, Leo Thomas, whatever. You'll get it right. You'll have somebody in our lineage, some name, perfect name, because you can't forget the name Thomas. It's in everybody's name.
well, thank you very much, Lori. That's really fun to know about, and this will pass on to future generations. And we plan on you carrying on this, so we can carry this, so your children will know what's happening. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And